This is Jordan from RK Tunes. I'm Aaron from Lone Star Drift, and this is a class. Oh, I forgot this more about things.
I forgot you put that up that high.
Okay, so the question I'm going to ask Jordan, because he's a world-renowned BMW tuner that tunes all kinds of crazy stuff and has the world's fastest F80, and also, up until a point, the only F80 M3 drift car in the United States, maybe?
I would say so.
With the most miles drifted and street driven and all that stuff. Now Duarte's copycatting you. I want you to tell me about, like, as a tuner, where should, like, let's just say an example. Nick Novak's in the background. He had an S54 turbo, like Pro-Am E36. I'm Aaron. I have like a Pro-Am car I bought from Colin that has like a big turbo 3582 inline six. The numbers don't matter, but where should we stop building these cars for drifting?
Oh, that's good.
So like, at what level do these cars no longer become reliable and we mess them up and they're awful? Because like you sell tunes and you sell them for like a normal E36 M3 engine. You sell them for like bolt-on turbo kits. You do all these different things. What's the best bang for the buck, the best reliability? Like, I don't want to work on the car. I just want to drive. You're starting to learn that. You're driving.
Yes.
You have a 1200 horsepower M3. Would it survive this drifting stuff?
No.
So
like, I don't know what I would break. I don't know what I'd break. Like, will my built differential work? For a time, and then it wouldn't. Like with the axle hold, I took it apart and I had an axle stub that was like twisted from launches. Like, what are 1,000 clutch kicks gonna do? But
he had a bunch of motor failures and stuff, and he had a great company.
So you thought? Potentially. I don't know. They
I'm not nailing people, but you know, a well-renowned company that was
backing
it and doing everything, and like there's always the option. Nick over there, he just went V8 and a supercharger, and it cured all of his problems. And he's doing a thumbs up and smiling, and it just fixed everything. Should we be building these engines and doing this stuff? Are they capable? What point should we stop? Just like, what are your thoughts?
It depends. Like you asked a while ago, you said what's the best motor for drifting in a previous interview, and my answer was like an LS. And afterwards, I sort of regretted saying that. But I don't. At the same time, I don't. If you have an engine with no turbo or no supercharger, like your cylinder pressure is always so much lower. If something goes wrong, your fuel pump dies or something, your motor doesn't just blow up or melt down. So by you adding more power and more cylinder pressure, especially 1,000 horsepower in a 4-cylinder versus 10-cylinder, it's gonna have more cylinder pressure per cylinder and be harder and everything. So like on an E36 NA, it's like almost impossible to blow the car up. It never really breaks. You just like, car goes lean, car's cold, nothing happens. Where's reliability come? My problem is like, you have a turbo E36, I've had a lot of them. I think like you go to like 700-800 horsepower, then like the transmission's gonna start breaking, right? Even on the street. 6,000-7,000 miles of street pulls, like 800 wheel, the tran's gonna break. These used to be $300. You're like, oh, $300. Now they're like 900, 800. So like, I think that like, I see people on Drift Week with like 400 wheel on E36, and they're breaking axle stubs. So like my problem is for me to do an E36 turbo for like Drift Week build, I would have axles in it. I would have a different transmission possibly, because I like the idea of not having to work on the car. Like even my F80 has axles in it, and it has like a different clutch. And I like the idea of not having to work on it as much, but I'm also at the point, like, I get it, like you don't want to spend $1,500 on axles, so bring 5 spares instead. That still cost you $700, $800 total.
The problem is sometimes those OEM axles are the most reliable long term, even more so than the built ones. You know what I mean? The built ones still fail because the CVs wear out because you're at angles, or like you hit a curb or whatever it is that like is the thing that takes out the axle. Most of the time those axles are incredible, or you e-brake and clutch kick at the same time. There's typically like a shock load that would take out any axle, you know.
So you think that's not the case in terms of, but I don't know, motor-wise and stuff?
I don't know. It's more about like just the concept of, I'm asking you about BMW stuff because you're a BMW tuner. How much are we pushing the limits with this junk? How hard should we be doing it? Like,
I'll give you
how safe is it? Yeah, just give us like riff on it. Because you're talking about cylinder pressures. I love that. Because you're immediately telling me we should not be running turbo motors.
It's not that you shouldn't. It works, but it works to a point. Like an E36 engine, stock, with like a stock unopened, it's like pump gas or 85, like 8 pounds of boost, maybe 350 horsepower or something like that. And I say even on 85 because like the stock head gasket isn't the best in the world. So like even put 85 makes 400, then you blow head gasket. Like stock motor, head gasket, head studs, That on pump gas, it'll do from 350 to 550 depending on your turbo. On ED5, I would say 500, 600 horsepower at the tire is like a good, safe point. If the car never goes lean because your fuel pump doesn't die and your wastegate lines have zip ties and they're proper like silicone lines and they're snug and they don't come off, I don't see a reason why that should break, like period. It's all about when something goes wrong. Then you build the motor. In my opinion, an E36 engine should not be pushed past 900 wheel, 950 wheel. 1,000, 1,100, like 1,000's okay-ish, I guess. At like 1,100 horsepower, you're like I mean,
1,100 horsepower.
I don't know.
Drifting?
It's just not made up for drifting, but like for the average person, the problem is they go and they have an NA motor and then they just melt it down. They're like, I need a built engine right now. The stock motor can't handle it. It's not the stock motor can't handle it. It's your friend was probably a bad mechanic or the shop you paid messed up, car went lean and damaged it. A built engine cares less. You go a little lean, the piston's stronger, won't crack a ringland. Your rod's forged, you go like the boost goes to the moon one day, and you're like, oh, maybe you hurt the rings a little bit, and it has a little blow-by right now, but it'll live another 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Drift Week 5 is brought to you by BC Racing Custom Coilovers, the most supportive coilover company in the United States. ECU Master USA. We love them. They run our events with us. They're driving, they're supporting, they're doing all kinds of cool stuff. Check out their website and all their cool products. NK Wheels, I've been running RPF ones forever, and they support our Japan content and everything we do. We love NK Wheels. Drift HQ, who we could not do Drift Week without their amazing support trailer. They are an awesome company. Check them out. Duarte, we love you. Vapetasia, who not only supported Forrest Wing in Formula D, but also come and drive on this trip and also are supporting the trip. We love you. Also, Heatwave Visual. They protect our eyes. They protect my head with a beanie. They make cool stuff. Check out their website. They also make cool content with guys like Matt Field, that amazing video of him on a cliff drifting his Corvette, and whatmonstersdo.com. Like always, go to their website, use the discount code EBISU for a percentage off. Let's get back to the content.
These are old motors though. Like you've been on Drift Weeks. On Drift Week 3, we saw people swapping E36 motors in parking lots. On Drift Week 2, we had a dude swapping E36 crank and stuff. Like these are older motors that people are pushing. Are you talking about brand new motors? Because like a 300,000 mile motor.
Dude, if you take apart a 300,000 mile like M52, the rod bearings look better than an F80 motor with 20,000 miles on it. Like the E36 engines are like really, really good. An E46 engine is like a lot shittier. The rings stick and do like weird things from like oil being back in the intake track. But like I have no, if I get like E36, I'm not doing a compression test. I'm not doing a leak down test. As long as it has no blow by, I do not care. I'm driving it. If it gets turboed, it gets turboed. And as long as everything's mechanically good, I don't see why it should break. I do agree though, people on Drift Week with NA cars are breaking them. But who's not to say that car doesn't have some sort of old fuel pump or clogged fuel filter. It's a little bit lean, but it takes 2 years of abuse for it to finally like damage something.
I see what you're saying.
What I'm saying is like a turbo car, you damage it like right away. An NA car doesn't really care. It doesn't really care. It doesn't mean it lasts forever. It just lasts like absurdly longer. Like I don't know, maybe it's not English. But.
So how as a tuner would you keep my personal car alive if I had my E36? I'm literally just getting free advice.
Free advice.
How would I do this? Would I need a air fuel ratio gauge? Would I need a fuel pressure regulator gauge or fuel pressure gauge? Do I need an ECU that logs all this? Because you do stock tunes.
Yes.
None of this is logged, which makes it very difficult for me to give you logs.
Yes.
So like what would I need to do to maintain all this information? Because right now, I do not look at my gauges.
Me neither.
On my
my 1200 horsepower car had 0 gauges.
How do you dummy proof this for a drifter as a tuner?
So like it's gonna sound weird. Well, once again, built like fuel lines and gas tank. I only buy Radium PTFE. I've had other ones fail, and they're probably from China anyway. But like all the black ones.
I saw that in your video.
Yeah, all the black ones. Thanks. I watch your videos too. All the black ones like blow up and leak out at like 70 psi. I don't have answers why, but like on stock ECU stuff, buying proper parts, Loctiting wastegate things in. Potentially cross-threading AN, like MPT fittings into wastegate and running like an AN line. That's like another step of like the wastegate line.
Cross-threading it on purpose?
Yeah, like a wastegate's like a M10 or something thread, right? And like an 1/8 inch MPT threads in and everyone thinks it fits. It doesn't.
Oh wait, you want to do this or don't want to do it?
Well, yeah, you could like put like better wastegate fittings on. Like AN lines or something like that.
Oh, I thought you were like cross-thread those bitches so they don't come off.
Yeah, not crooked, but it's like M10 versus 1/8 inch MPT.
Okay.
Fit almost identically.
Okay.
But whatever, I'm saying like good wastegate lines, proper fuel pump setup, good quality wiring. Like people wire stuff like really thin relays, and like the fuses overheat and stuff. Being the best mechanic is the best way for reliability. Putting the standalone does have safeties, but like, does that save everyone? No. How many people you see with standalones blow their car up? Happens all the time.
It's more likely, in my opinion, for someone to blow up an engine with the standalone because it gives them more parameters to mess with and screw up most of the time. Unless you're like tight in with someone that really can set it up and takes the time.
Hours, that's what I'm saying. It's like obscene hours of like, so you can have a maximum boost.
And the individual drivers that can get on their laptop all the time and fix things like the dudes on Drift Week, they're the worst. They're breaking it the most. They think they're doing great tuning it on the street for better mileage or whatever. I'm sure you've seen that with some. I don't want to call Brandon Wicknick out, but
I didn't know he did that. I'm not that surprised, but like, he's like always breaking.
But no, I'm just saying, the more access you give to the drivers a lot of the time, and it's not just like some dummy-proof thing, the worse we do.
Like I just drive my F80. I put a tune on. I've never dynoed the car. I just drive it. Like, we got an air intake code once. I smoke tested. Like a O-ring had a leak. I just drive it. Everyone's like, "Are you gonna dyno it?" I'm like, I don't really. I mean, it feels quite powerful.
So how do I keep this thing?
Watch my video that shows you like the.
I watched that one.
Yeah, that's really good.
But I mean, I shouldn't be logging fuel pressure. Like, because
all
you're
that,
saying a
so
week
all that
or
stuff,
something.
all that stuff is great. I don't have. There's no way the stock ECU to do it. There's a way to sort of wire some things into the stock ECU.
Well, I mean, I could just have a gauge.
Yeah, you could do that too. But like, the problem is, by the time you see it on a turbo car that's like 12 to 1 or whatever, what is it, like 12 to 1 or something crazy? That car, it's like it's gonna destroy itself before you catch it. That's where a standalone comes into play. But almost every standalone never has safety set up right. Like whoever does that, it like never happens. It's like, and especially FD is different because they say they turn them all off. Because if you're in battle,
you just want to blow the engine.
You'll just take the engine out to win versus lose. And drag racing's like that a lot of the time too. Like your boost cap turns off, everything. But on a street car, a normal car, the safeties can help. With that being said, I've had friends that like put a standalone, like Life Racing, it's like Cybex, they put in their car, like this is the best, the safest ECU ever. And they're like, oh, my car, my wastegate line came loose, my motor melted down. And it's like, thought you had this wonderful standalone. It can only do so much. If you have an electric throttle body, it's even better because it can like close throttle and stuff. If you have a mechanical throttle body with a standalone, it's gonna like, you'll just floor it and it will sound like you hit limiter earlier and do weird things, but yeah, you have to be able to connect. Like Rudy can't connect to his car and he has no understanding of like electronics like that tuning. So even if he could, he'd have to connect and have another tuner remote in, but he's in a situation where a car has some error code and it's like, what do you do?
You keep saying these crazy things too, like I can run 1100 horsepower in my E36. And
you're not gonna. No, that's too much.
Okay.
Like 900 wheel, if it's set up right, nothing goes wrong. If I like lower compression over higher compression.
Then why did Nick blow up so many motors, so many S54s? Because those are even better motors with less cylinder pressure, probably making.
Probably because it makes less torque to make more power. I don't know. I'm not his mechanic or tuner.
But I'm just saying, Chelsea had lots of failures within.
Chelsea had insane failures. There's definitely a lot of things that he wanted to do that are different than how I wanted to do them. But it was like, it was his car. I was there tuning it. I'd give my input, and then he chose the parts. And like, my car spooled my street car spooled insanely faster than his, even with different cams he had and whatever other changes and turbo choices. And like, I look at things semi-differently. I think there's like a few things he could have done that probably would. He even put a Motec in his car. Did you know that? In the Canada round, that car had a Motec in it.
Crazy.
And it failed after the exact same amount of laps, pretty much. So he called me. He was like, "Yo, this shit." He told me he was putting in the car to get onboard logging, safeties, everything. It blew up in like the exact same amount of passes.
Damn.
But I mean, like the car had extremely small turbine housing, really bad turbo. Like it had Garrett GTW turbo, which in my opinion is not a great turbo. There's like the GTX line. There's other things that are better. So like you have a small turbine housing and not a great turbo. It takes a lot of boost to make a lot of power, and it probably has absurd back pressure due to a tiny V-band housing on a 3-liter engine. Versus like, I would run big runners big twin scroll, the biggest housing I could buy, and it would actually spool faster and not break because it's not choking out the car as much. Versus like people don't understand like residual gas is called. When the exhaust valve's open, the exhaust goes out, right? No, when there's 50 psi back pressure, when that exhaust valve closes, there's old shit in the cylinder. And then the intake opens to let new air in, and you have hot, dirty, burnt air in the cylinder, and then it's like more prone to pre-ignition, detonation, and damages.
I never thought about that. Have you ever watched the Gale Banks diesel episodes and stuff? He does a lot of
I saw one
testing.
thing, and it's super amusing, is this older guy who's like, seems extremely smart with insane amounts of testing.
Yeah.
I never watched a full video though.
He was doing back
roasting
pressure
again.
testing on exhaust stuff and everything. I never thought about.
It's called, I think the name's like residual gas or something.
Yeah, I never thought about residual gas in the cylinder. I just think of it getting stuck there and just causing back pressure. I never thought about what the back pressure is doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just think about the back pressure robbing horsepower, not about it blowing up a motor.
Yeah. Back pressure is like, everyone says an NA car needs back pressure. In my opinion, it's also like absurdly fake news.
Oh, they did that on Engine Masters. They like tested all that
And
stuff.
what happened? The biggest
only
free flowing
yeah.
helps. And every X pipe is garbage. Did they say that too or no?
Well, yeah, what they did is they had every type of exhaust on the car for like parameters, and they kept opening up, and they basically Zoomies made the most power, obviously.
What Zoom is like the biggest?
No, it's just like where they just go boop, and that's an entire exhaust is like that much.
Yes.
It's just like a little header thing.
It's like companies sell X pipes for cars, and they say like the crossover does this and that, and they're not engineers; they're just people that think they are.
X pipes make a dual exhaust sound a lot better by
Oh,
combining
it sounds better, for sure.
Yeah.
But like if you put it too close to the header on like most of BMW engines, you actually have the pulses fighting at low speed. So you lose like 30 to 80 horsepower at 3,000 RPMs like on an S54. So anyone at S54 puts a 3-inch or 3.5-inch exhaust, you'll gain 5 at red line because a 3-inch flows more than the stock, but because the pulses smash each other at low speed, it's horrible. So like that's a whole nother thing. But turbo-wise, I like large turbos, big turbine housings, reduce back pressure, even on pump gas. We had a car on 3-inch exhaust, we cut off like 10 feet of it. The car made more power and less knock on the same tank of gas the same day because exhaust gas is under pressure, it expands. If you have 50 feet, it can't expand as easily. If your turbo's here and you have 1 foot, it'll blow right open and the exhaust will like be less back pressure in the manifold. So on pump gas even, you'll have a car like a 3-inch exhaust and a small housing with the same turbo make 440 wheel with a 3.5-inch and a big turbine housing make like 520. On pump gas. So imagine like even on 85, the same thing's happening on more boost. 85 doesn't care as much. Doesn't mean never cares. So that's why, I mean, Chelsea broke a lot of things. I think if he would have done that differently, he also thinks that nitrous setup could have been different.
I was gonna say, as a tuner versus the driver, I also think though sometimes a large turbo setup is really dangerous for a car.
Yes.
Because you beat on the car so much more, trying to get into boost, more clutch kicks, more everything else. I'm sure you've felt that on cars before. So
I only really drove my car.
Oh, well,
We
you know what I
spoke
mean.
about this,
You'd mechanically beat on the car more, so the drivetrain and everything is feeling a lot more destruction.
Yeah, I would agree. Forrest Wang drove my car as if it had a big turbo, practically a Honda Muscleman.
And you're just like, ah.
And I was like, man, Joel just broke my transmission. There's a new one with 2 days on it. Please don't break it. But he was driving it as if you had to. You drove my car. It has so much power. You roll on the gas, and the boost like 3,000 RPM just rolls right in. And there's really nothing.
I didn't clutch kick your car when I drove it. It was awesome.
Probably
and it has
not.
a really nice ramp rate for the turbo.
But yeah, a big turbo would be lazier, but Chelsea's car already had nitrous on it.
Yeah.
We ran like from 50 to 125 shot, which wakes up the turbo almost instantly. So it's like, I think that like you'd sacrifice a little bit of spool, not even get a bigger turbo, but just bigger housing on stuff. Even if you lose 100, 200 RPMs, I bet it would add 50 horsepower up top and a large level of reliability.
So finishing this up, as a BMW tuner that makes your money on all this stuff, for someone like myself, you see me out there in my S14, I did like 100 laps yesterday. Would I be able to do that, do you think, in that E36 turbo car?
Depends on how good it is. Like all it takes
the
is
mechanical
like, the mechanical side
behind it? Or do you think I would be better served because I don't want to touch the car, I don't want to maintain it, don't want to do any of that stuff? Do you think someone like myself should just put an LS in that car?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you because like, the LS is NA.
Well, the LS requires less mechanical ability to keep going, probably.
I agree. No, it has to. It's like an E36, NA E36 also sort of requires like that not a large level of mechanical stuff. You change like the intake hoses. Like Dimitri's car ran like crap because the intake hose ripped, but he didn't know. You unplug the MAF, like that's your diagnostics. But on a Turbo E36, if the car is mechanically great, I don't see why you couldn't hot lap it a lot and not really have a problem. The problem is like it's very easy on a motor that's NA, smaller displacement, to make the same amount of power. There's so much more like cylinder pressure and power per cylinder. If anything goes wrong, it's so much easier to break something. Versus like NA, if you put 87 in your car and beat it up, what's going to happen?
Well, it's 11 to 1. Oh, the NA one?
This one right here.
Oh, probably fuck up.
But like you'll hear it pinging or something.
Oh,
first,
yeah.
And you're like, oh
Sorry,
man.
yeah.
The E36 is just gonna like blow
I
right
would
up.
hope I could hear pinging, but it's a loud car. On the E36 as well, they ran VP like 116 or like whatever.
And we're on
C116.
85.
Yeah, but I was gonna say it probably meant that you could get away with a lot of those issues. How much does E85 really help band-aid all problems?
Insane amounts.
Yeah.
It's like.
So do I really have to worry about blowing up the engine if I'm on like E85?
No, it'll run the car cool and cool. But the thing is, like, if your injectors or your fuel pump setup, your single fuel pump is good for, let's say, 650, 750, 720.
You keep saying that, and True's like, it's not. True's my buddy that helps on the car.
Yeah.
He's like, it is not gonna do that.
Yeah, I don't care.
I know, I'm just.
Because he's like, the fuel pump's maxed out.
Mark is now behind us, and we just hear that the whole
And
time.
I'm like, the fuel pump's not maxed out, right? And you're like, oh, fuel pump. I'm like, your car's making no power. There's something else wrong. You figured out there was something wrong. You guys did good figuring that out.
We just haven't put it back on the dyno. I think we blew out the exhaust.
Yep. And then you say you fix it, and that was that. But you have like a lot of cars, so it's like hard to maintain them.
You know how that is.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Hell, you work on cars. It must be great. No, I need to make money.
But I'm really excited to drive it because it's gonna be like 650 wheel.
It's gonna be
and
fast.
That's 50% more power than my V8 car.
So
That is so much more.
Will it be reliable? I think it could be, but especially once again, you go from 8.5 to 11.5 to 1 compression ratio, cylinder pressure goes up. Now it's easier for something bad to happen. It's like Charles's car. We ended up dropping we ran also high compression. He had a backup motor. He also he had a crazy issue too. Like his gas tank was once cut in half and like plastic welded back together. So he had like a smaller fuel cell, and the plastic he used, like the plastic welded, was clogging injectors and stuff. So it was like he had some problems.
So many problems, yeah.
So we went ahead and we had a backup. Like he bought for $2,000 or $3,000 on Beamforms, an 8.5 to 1 built motor. That when we got it and put it in the car one day, I poured oil in it, and the head bolts weren't even tight. So like the oil was leaking out the side of the cylinder head, and then we're like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna pull the valve cover off. We just snugged it down.
Is that the one where it was like rattling the bottom end because nothing was tight in the bottom end either at Texas?
I didn't hear about that, but it probably was. I was in Texas for that round. So it's probably that I was in Texas when I wasn't at the track, but probably. So like the head was all loose and everything, so I went in there, I tightened everything in the head, torqued all the head studs, and he ran that motor, and that backup motor lasted longer than any of the other motors you've ever done.
I have a great idea.
What?
This is a really good idea.
All right.
You need to fly down for one of my Lone Star Drift events, and you can drive my E36.
And if it lasts?
No, but you have to help dial it in.
That could potentially work. I want to drive different cars.
That's what I'm saying, because I know you want to drive another car, because that's a full-on car. It is nothing like your F80.
Fast.
No, not just that. It's like, it is crazy how they steer and do everything. They're just like...
Think it'd be very hard to drive for me?
No, it'll be so easy. Way easy. No, I'm just saying it's so much more aggressive.
Chelsea told me to buy, so he told me, I was like, I might do this M240 thing or M2.
My car might be for sale.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Maybe we could talk.
No, I was gonna say it'd be good for both of us though, because we could do an episode with you talking about what's wrong with the car and everything, or you could do an episode.
And
or
you'll
whatever.
get a fixed car.
I'll get a fixed car,
And I'll get
you
to
get
drive something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be super cool. I'd be really, really interested in that.
And you can have a free entry fee.
Oh, wow.
But you gotta pay for tires.
Yeah, that's fine.
And you can do it at a fast track.
Okay.
We have MSR coming up really
How
soon.
fast is that?
Oh, fast.
They had the video with like a insane long run up for
It's
like
where
no
I stuffed
reason.
it into the wall.
Oh, that one. When I saw the video, I was like, Aaron is not pro the suicide brake thing. I've been driving suicide brakes on all the cars. The M240, I put suicide brakes
Oh, well, it was
on.
also on 5-year-old front tires, and I didn't expect it, and I panicked, and the grass was wet. I don't know if you've ever hit wet grass before in a race car. You literally accelerate. Nick knows what I'm talking about.
It feels like you accelerate?
Well, not just that. You do it, and you just flip out, because you're like, the controls no longer matter. Like, everything I've ever learned in a race car is because, you would go way past this building in under a second, at those speeds. You would just rocket ship off. It's terrifying.
So that's what you did?
Oh, yeah, but screaming probably. And that car's murder fast.
So that track, yeah, but Chelsea told me to buy an E36. He was like, it's the best thing. He's like, don't buy this 240 thing. It's gonna be the same rear suspension geometry as the other car. It's not gonna be that much better. E36, he said, like, he's like, you're not scared of driving an F80 M3, as we see, like, crashing it, right? So he's like, you're not scared of driving the F80 M3. You chuck the car around, you commit to throttle. He's like, an E36 would be more rewarding for you as a driver.
Two different ways to think about this. E36 is absolutely a better drift car. Absolutely has more parts for it. Absolutely everything. However, I don't think we realize things in the moment and everything like that, but you're the new Dado guy that's doing all this shit that no one else can. You're the crazy motherfucker that drives an F80 M3 and the dude
wrecks it. And like,
yeah, and that's going to be doing the thing, or the M240i to the BMW community, which I'm not really a part of. Are you really a part of it, Nick? Nah, I don't think any of us are, because we're kind of older now though. But like, that car is going to be in like some Gran Turismo game or like Forza thing. Like, it's mind-blowing to watch that. And the audience online seeing it in Adam's videos or like in mine or in yours and everything, I think like...
It's more worth it.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's iconic and everything. So you driving like a newer 240i, whatever, like full-on build.
Like 2019, like nice new car.
No one does that. So it doesn't matter how nice or cool your E46 M3 is, because honestly, do you know anything about his Pro 1 car? Have you ever seen it?
Well, I saw it when the previous person had it,
and
it was supposedly like insane. Like, everything is like the best.
Yeah, but I mean, like, have you ever seen it since he has it, or know what color it is or anything? No.
Black and purple? Or am I wrong? I have no idea.
Anyways, my point is...
I don't follow FD, as shitty as that sounds.
But my point is in the BMW community, more people know about your car than his insane car. But that's a crazy concept. But you understand that because of Dado thing, or like, you know, other mischief, whatever, Technica videos or whatever in the past.
Which we remember. Right. I don't know how old he is,
but
if he remembers that.
But there's kids growing up right now that you will be that BMW guy. Just like Chelsea was the E36 guy. No one else is the E36 guy, are they? Yeah. So,
no, not for drifting. I mean,
Chelsea took that entire moniker of that. No one can get the S chassis crown because there's too many of them. So I don't know if that helps you with your business or anything else.
I don't know either how much all this helps. Yeah, but exactly. No, I don't know how much all this helps my business. Because it's like, you want a tuner, and people, like, at least years ago, I would think, like, all the BMW tuning guys were like professional, legitimate companies potentially. And then I was like trying not to look dumb, and like I didn't want to post videos of myself doing anything, because like now I'm older, but like 10 years, I was like 20 years old, 21 years old. I didn't want to look like, oh, this dumb kid's gonna tune my car. But like now looking back, I think the being real factor of it potentially helps the business. But I don't really do this to help the business, but I don't think it will hurt. I don't know what it will do.
One thing I can say, and this will be my closing thought, and you can finish up on it, is I have shops that talk to me about drifting, and they're like, oh, we're thinking about building a shop drift car and maybe finding someone to drive it for us and this and that. And I'm like, that's the dumbest shit on earth. And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, it's cool that you are a super reputable shop that builds turbo Lamborghinis, but I was like, you cannot build a reliable drift car. I was like, you have no idea what you're doing. You will not work on this thing as much as like some kid in his garage, or, you know, all these different things. And you're not going to build just like an LS1 240 or whatever. You're going to try and do something crazy. You're setting yourself up for failure, like Nick's car with that S54 and all this other stuff. It was rad, but it still blew up a bunch of times, and everybody saw, like, you know, the side of the car and who was on it and all these other things. And there's kids that are running 1Js at full throttle, just like, you know,
Dorm people.
Yeah, not only that, but they're on like their 6th year on that motor and everything else, and they get it done. And like, as a shop, you set yourself up for failure. And like, if you were driving a 900 horsepower BMW, it'd be a disaster. You driving yours is pretty rad, but you can already see everything you've done aftermarket is failing.
Yep, all your arms, front end stuff.
So you don't want aftermarket turbos and ECUs and like everything else.
No, ask me, are you gonna buy turbos for your car? And I'm like, absolutely not. I see them fail on stock cars. You have a tiny shaft and huge wheels, and it just I have warranted more than most people because I have a dyno. So a car will come in a little smoke randomly. I put on a dyno, car down 100 horsepower. I warranted so many, probably one for every single one I've sold. Even if it wasn't like the same guy. Like, I sold one to you, and then like another customer comes in 5 months later and he had an issue, and I diagnosed it, you need turbos. Like, I warranted a lot of aftermarket turbos, unless the car got a single turbo kit, like a Precision or something. That's the only way we get an upgrade turbo this car. And I had a turbo kit off the other car, and everyone's like, you're gonna
This thing makes plenty of power.
It's great. Like, what do I need? But
anyways, I was just saying, it's setting these shops up for failure. That was my weird last thought, is because I think it's too difficult to use aftermarket parts most of the time and do what we do. Unless you're like on a JZ or something like that that just doesn't care about anything. You know, like Toyota's overbuilt everything. Is the E36 S52 better than a JZ?
Pound for pound, yes. Long term, making absurd power, no, because there's like way more backing behind the 2J.
Yeah.
Like 20-pound 2J on pump gas, the 6266 versus 20-pound E36 on the 6266. The E36 just wins power-wise, power band-wise, but like JZ
longevity.
reliability, the backing is huge. Like, look how people make 2,000 horsepower.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So like you want to make 600, it should be easy.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. High five. Go drive. Oh wait, you can't.
I can't.
Because your BMW broke.
Because I got just fender bender.
Unless you already muffled